Okay, so all the disciples ran off except for John. Mary, the mother of Jesus, Mary Magdalene, John, and I believe there's some other followers too, are at the cross, and they are there until the bitter end, literally the last breaths of Jesus. I think the disappointment has now moved to despair, and there's also an actual deep guttural sense that he is gone, he is dead. And I can't imagine what that feels like when you knew the person and also believed that they were the savior of the world. I don't know how you reconcile that. So this is where we find the followers of God. This is where we find the followers of Jesus in this moment. And they are in a spirit of despair. They are in deep grief. They have lost their leader, literally. Jesus is taken down off the cross. He is his body is prepared and he is put into a tomb. And as we know that there are 3 days between him being buried and then him rising again. And I think in those 3 days, there is absolute deep grief, and that grief is important, and it's modeled from the creator of the universe in this moment. I think God grieved for his son, and I think Jesus grieved for his father and his people. And I think this death was a real physical death and loss of a person that was special and that was part of a family and part of a community. So he's buried, and I think that there's grief and despair and this deep sense of loss. And then on the 3rd day, the stone is rolled away and Jesus rises from the dead. When the women find him, and the different gospels talk about this differently, it appears that Mary thinks she's talking to the gardener and ends up it's Jesus. Some of the other gospels talk about the women who see Jesus and realize it's Jesus risen from the dead, and then they are the ones that go back to tell the disciples. I think the moment of the women interacting with a risen Jesus has to be this joy that is like not just happiness, but it's this deep sense of satisfaction, a pleasant, delightful satisfaction. And I think that moment, and then there's also the surprise, the unexpectedness of it, the urgency that they run back to tell everybody else, all of that's wrapped in it. But I really believe that there's a deep move of emotion from despair and grief and loss to joy. And now we have gone through 3 iterations of emotions in this story, in this week, in these days. And I think it's important for us to pause and think about that kind of joy. It's different from happiness. I think it is more in the category of delight. I think it is a deep, I use the word satisfied. I think it's satisfying, deep, guttural feeling of contentment that we only get when our minds and hearts are set on the eternal and not on this earth. I think all the emotions that have led up to this, they were very earthly, very human emotions. I think now what these women experienced was that their God, their King, everything that they had thought, that they had believed from what they had known from the Torah, what they had heard from the teaching, they had wondered how it was all going to come together, and it all came together in this resurrection in a way that I'm not sure that they ever expected, but they were in it in real time. So I ask you to pause and I ask you to think whether you're in this moment right now where a bunch of parts of your life have coalesced and there's a sense of peace and knowing and comfort and joy that comes at a very, very deep cellular type level. If you're not there right now, I ask you or invite you to think back to when you have been there. And even if it hasn't been all the way, but you've had that essence. I'm going to give you an example. I was sharing with my husband the other day that I have these certain places, markers on my journey where I look back on them and say, oh, remember when this was happening and it was so joyful. There was hard parts about it. So we always kind of glorify and we forget all the hard struggle part, but in the moment of the joy. And right now, the story that I like to share or would like to share with you is that at Christmas, my kids gave me a women's read through the Bible in a year. It was not what I was expecting. But it's actually been better. It was kind of an outline, and it has a weekly devotional and a prayer. But it's an outline daily that gives you scriptures to read, that by the end of the year, you will have read through the whole Bible. It's doing it in a really beautiful way. And it's causing me throughout the week to see almost the beginning to the end of the Bible in these little snippets. And then it's showing where the prophecy of the Old Testament is fulfilled in the New Testament. And it's bringing a whole different meta experience of knowing who God is. When I decided to do this, my husband asked if he could join me. And we have set aside time when we're in person. We're doing it together at our kitchen table in the morning. When we're not, we take a picture of the page and we make sure that we are reading it and then talking separately about it. But it is one of those moments in my life that right now, day to day, I look at it and go, oh, I feel so much peace and connectedness to my husband and real honor and understanding of God in a unique and way that brings a huge contentment to me. It's one of those moments that I know I will look back on in future years and go, oh, remember when? Remember when I was doing the devotions that way? It was so special and so sweet. So I encourage you to think, do you have that right now? Or have you had it in the past? And jot it down. Think about it, meditate on what that was and how that feeling coalesced in your personal life. And then my encouragement to you from the reframing or the therapeutic standpoint is, can you reinsert it in your life as we move into post-Easter celebration in our holy calendar, but also in our personal lives?